My stepdaughter thinks that I was cheating on her dad. I wasn't, but she got me kicked out of the house, so I decided to do this. Hey, my name's Jess, and I'm an accountant and live in a house with my husband Ray and my stepdaughter Cece, who's 18. I met Ray about a decade ago. He had been divorced from his ex-wife for a few years by then. When we met, we instantly liked each other. But it still took about 2 years for him to introduce me to his daughter, who was 10 years old back then. Cece did not like me at all, even the first time that we were introduced. She acted like a brat and simply refused to talk to me or even look at me. I thought that she felt like I was replacing her mother in the beginning, which was not true at all. But soon I realized that Cece was just a difficult kid. Ray had asked me to marry him just a few weeks after he introduced me to Cece, and I can only assume that he thought Cece and I would get along better if we were living together. Ray and I were pretty serious about one another, so yes, that's what I said to him without too much thought. It became apparent that Cece was a spoiled child when she went to dinner with my side of the family. Just after we had gotten engaged, she was rude to my parents and sister. I tried to excuse her behavior, explaining that she was young and might have felt out of place at dinner, but she was unkind to my family, responding with sarcasm to their questions. Ray assured me that she needed time to adjust to the situation at hand, and I understood his perspective, so I promised to be patient with her. Regardless of her bratty behavior, we went on to get married. Cece was sullen all through the wedding company and, half-heartedly doing her job as the flower girl, rolling her eyes any time that she had to interact with my family, and I knew my family did not like her, but was grateful when no one brought it up with me. She did not dance with anyone, which was, her own choice, and I could not force her to do it, but she also did not talk to anyone, not even my nephews or nieces of her age. My mother-in-law told me that Cece had always been sullen and did not warm up to many people. It became worse ever since her mother cheated on Ray, and I attribute it to trust issues, thinking maybe her mother's actions might have caused them, so I wanted to be empathetic towards her issues, so I never tried to overstep. Just a few days into our marriage, I realized that Cece enjoyed causing trouble for everyone. She seemed to thrive on drama. She was a drama queen, and there were times when Ray had gone on business trips, leaving us alone for a few days. I would call Cece down for breakfast or dinner, but she would ignore me, not eating what I prepared for her, and on Ray's return, he confronted me about not feeding Cece. She had gone ahead and just complained to Ray, and I explained that I would call Cece down for food and she would not show up. I would even knock on her door and she would just ignore me. Ray said that Cece did not tell him about that, and I even told him that once I left food just outside her room only to wake up to find the floor littered with food that I've left the night before. Ray was exhausted, and when he asked me to be the big person and forgive her, I understood. I told him to rest, and I assured him that I would handle Cece's tantrums better in the future. The next time, I invited Cece to go out for dinner, and she mulled it over and agreed, and I was excited, thinking it was a chance for us to bond. However, during the dinner, she kept her earphones on and did not acknowledge me, and didn't even thank me for the treat. And it went back to how it usually was when I didn't take her out to eat the next day. This wasn't the only way she created trouble between Ray and me. Oh no. And she grew up, she would constantly just defy my rules like her curfew, especially when Ray wasn't around. It would cause Cece and me to bicker, and would end up with Ray involved in taking her side. He would later tell me that he just wanted Cece to know that she had support from his side, and he said that I could be the big person in these conflicts because she was young. As she grew a bit older, she became more sinister towards me. She once accused me of losing the diamond earring that Ray had given to me. When I actually looked for them, they were missing, only to reappear out of the blue when she found them in the backyard or in the bathroom. Ray was shocked at my carelessness, and I wasn't initially sure if I'd actually lost them or not. So I started to lock my expensive possessions away from places Cece would know to look. Cece's grades started to slip, and her teachers blamed it on her frequent absences from classes. And when I confronted Cece about what her teacher had told me, she didn't pay any attention to me. Instead, she told Ray that her declining grades were due to my constant distractions and conversations with her. I later explained to Ray that she had been missing classes, which was the reason for her slipping grades. Ray suggested that I be the big person in this situation and forgive Cece for her dishonesty. Once she even stole a new dress I bought for myself. Initially, I was confused about where I'd kept it. But a few months later, I ran into Cece coming home from a party. I was way past her curfew, wearing my dress, and when I asked her where she got it from, she lied, saying that she had bought it herself, but she couldn't have. It was too expensive for a 16-year-old to afford. But then, she had also started constantly just breaking curfews and going out to parties with her friends whom I did not like at all because they were often disrespectful towards me when they came over. I was concerned about the company she kept and tried to discuss it with Ray. He told me not to overstep Cece's boundaries, which made me wonder what sort of stories that she's been telling her father about me being behind my back. In the last 2 years, Cece has been consistently bringing older boys home, behind her father's back, leaving me feeling helpless because Ray had warned me to respect her boundaries. However, I could not simply allow her to be alone in her room with a college-aged boy. So I raised the issue with Ray once, and he cautioned me to better understand the boundaries with his daughter. He told me to leave her alone, and assured me that he had it under control. So I followed his advice, and just began to completely ignore Cece. In fact, I started working night shifts in the hope of avoiding any interactions with her. She was old enough to handle her own breakfast, and I would prepare dinner for Ray and her before leaving. The real trouble began yesterday, when I came back home early in the morning, only to find Ray sitting in the living room exhausted. I was about to ask if he was hungry, but he questioned how I could have done this to him instead. Exhausted and confused, I asked if he wanted me to make him breakfast. That seemed to infuriate him even more, and he yelled at me not to change the subject. I attempted to explain that I was exhausted and did not understand what he meant. He informed me that Cece had told him everything. In frustration, I replied that just as he suggested, I'd completely stopped interacting with his daughter. What more did you want from me? He screamed that he was talking about my infidelity, and I stood there shell-shocked, and the only word that escaped my mouth was, "What?" Because I was incredibly confused, incredibly hurt. He told me that Cece had revealed everything to him. By then, I'd heard footsteps coming down the stairs, and I insisted that she was lying, and that I would never do anything to betray him, but he was not convinced, and asked where I've been during the night. So I reminded him that I started working night shift, and then he showed me a picture and asked if this was what I was doing. The picture showed me hugging my boss, and it was taking the day before his wife had just left him. I was comforting him in the parking lot before we went in. When I tried to explain this, Ray wasn't willing to listen and told me to get out of his sight. He told me that I constantly was offering excuses for my behavior, but he would not tolerate it anymore. However, I wasn't making excuses. Ray yelled at me to stop and just pack my bags, warning me that he would throw me out without any of my possessions if I kept speaking. I was in shock, so I walked past Cece, who was standing, smirking, on the stairs to pack my bag. On the way down, Cece was leaning on the banister, and I whispered to her, asking if she wanted her father to be alone when he grew old, if that's what she desired. She whispered back that she just wanted me out of here. However, I didn't let her see me cry, even though I really wanted to. In a last-ditch attempt, I tried to talk to Ray, who opened up the door but would not look at my face. Hurt beyond words, I simply told him to call me when he regained his senses because I would not be waiting for, that long. By then, I was crying and hoping that my voice would not betray me. Currently, I'm staying with my parents and don't know what to do. I feel so betrayed by Ray. How could he believe his daughter after everything she's done to show her displeasure with me? Unless he's never believed me and just always believed Cece. Was just pretending to believe me. I don't know what to do anymore. I feel completely blindsided. Top comments from the original post. Comment number 1. Oh, I'm sorry to hear about your issue, Jess. Cece sounds like a difficult child who's determined to not like you. It's clear that ever since she met you, she's been against you. I'm disheartened that Ray believed her over your word, but it's possible he's always believed Cece over you and just pretends to listen to you when he wanted you to stay away from his daughter. Well, I don't know how much about your relationship with your husband, but I hope you realize that you deserve to be valued. If he doesn't value you in this relationship, it's okay to find someone better. However, if you think this is just a misunderstanding and he will understand your side, be patient with him. Father-daughter relationships are very often complex. All the best for whatever happens in your future. Best of luck. Updates number 1. Hey everyone, it's Jess again. It's been 2 weeks and Ray has not even called me. I hate that he thinks I cheated on him, even if it is a lie. He genuinely believed that I cheated on him for 2 weeks now, but I didn't want to pressure him to contact him. However, I needed some files for work. I delayed getting them for days, but I can't wait any longer. So when I was off work, I decided to spend a few hours outside so I could retrieve the files from Ray's house while he was at the office, and hopefully Cece would be in school. When I entered the house, I tried to tiptoe toward the office next to Cece's room, just in case. I heard noises coming from her room as I slipped into the office, and I debated whether to check what's happening or simply leave without getting involved. I decided to take a quick peek before leaving as the door was wide open. I was horrified by what I saw. Cece was making out with an older guy, and I'm talking at least a decade older. I felt the need to intervene. She's 18. I mean, come on. I told them to stop. The man jumped back right away, but Cece looked frustrated by the interruption. I asked the man how old he was, but he would not meet my eyes, and instead told Cece that he would call her later. Well, I felt completely hopeless. Just standing there as he walked out, I asked her if this was the reason she lied to her father. Her only response to my question was an eye roll as she attempted to walk past me. I grabbed her by the arm and she struggled to free herself. I asked her the same question in a more intimidating, low-type tone. She swallowed and told me that it was none of my business. I reminded her that she was jeopardizing my marriage, so it was very much my business, actually. She tried to reiterate that that was the case. I should not have cheated on her father. But she wasn't very convincing, and we both knew that she was lying. I asked her if that was the plan, to bring boys home, have fun with them in the absence of her father, and she told me to mind my own damn business. I was overstepping her boundaries. She used the same words that Ray did, which made me feel unsettled at how easily she had put words in Ray's mouth. This realization made me rethink our relationship. So, I quickly picked up the files and the papers that slipped from my fingers and headed out. I was going to think about this situation, but before I could, I realized that I've picked something else up with my documents that shook me. It was some of Cece's documents, including her health records, about, getting rid of a baby she had a year ago when she was 17 years old. Now I have no idea what I should do. Should I tell Ray about this sensitive situation? I'm at a complete loss. Update number 2. Hey everyone, it's Jess again with another update. So, it's actually been 2 months since Ray and I had our fight. I had been thinking about our relationship a lot during this time. My thoughts have been leaning on the darker side, and I have been considering that it might be better if we split. Of course, it should be a best decision that we both make, but he had not called me in 2 months, so it's only been me thinking about it. His continued silence had only made me angry with him. It changed when Ray called me this evening, just an hour before I had to leave for the office. I was trembling when I picked up the call. I nearly cried upon hearing his voice again after such a long time. I loved him so much, yet he simply had no trust in me. Wow. Ray asked if I would like to return. I inquired if he believed that I had not cheated, and he sighed and said yes, he does believe me now. Then he revealed something absolutely shocking. He told me that Cece was pregnant and he wanted me to be with her as a mother to help her. I was stunned by that revelation. He confided in me that he didn't know what to do about this matter, but he assured me that he believed Cece was lying to him in an attempt to get both of us out of the house. He apologized for not giving me a chance to explain, so I took the opportunity to explain right then, just in case. I told him that my boss had recently gone through a divorce, and I have been good friends with my boss before his promotion, so I hugged him, and before we went into the office, no big deal. He calmly accepted what I was saying as the truth. Then we went ahead to discuss what to do with Cece. Ray wanted me to return and be a mother to Cece, as it was evident that she was lacking a positive female figure in her life. He apologized for asking me to stop interfering with Cece, recognizing that I was the one who had been keeping her from trouble. I was tempted to tell him that she had gotten into trouble before, having gotten rid of a baby a year ago, but I kept information to myself as it was a personal matter for Cece. I wasn't sure if she would let me be a mother to her. However, it was clear that she needed help and I could provide it. Perhaps this could bring us closer, and I hoped it would. I'd always wanted a daughter, and while Cece might be difficult, maybe now she would do better. I told him that I would return if he promised to be more open-minded and understanding towards me. I explained that Cece had been poisoning him against me with lies and made him promise that he would consult me before believing anything that Cece said. He agreed, and he promised. Well, he's promised to pick me up tomorrow evening, even though I have a car, as a show of good faith. I am definitely grateful. However, I'm debating whether hiding the fact that Cece has already gotten rid of a baby is a good decision. It just feels wrong to keep Ray out of the loop about it. Update number 3. Hey everyone, it's Jess again with another update. I've returned to Ray in my house, and Cece is still acting cold towards me, and now she also is distant from her father, and I think that she's angry. After a thorough discussion with Cece involved, we decided that it would be best for her to get rid of the baby. She's irresponsible, has no ambition, and doesn't even have a job. So it would be best for the best of it, and I don't know, the most crucial vote was Cece's. I wanted her to make a choice, so I encouraged her to be clear and tell us what she really wanted. She told Ray that she did not want to be a mother. So I took her to the clinic the very next day, and yeah, we had detected the pregnancy very early on, so she just had to take a pill, and everything would be fine. I was afraid it might traumatize Cece to go through with it a second time, but I didn't bring up the fact that I knew about her first time. During our car ride from the clinic, she remained silent, as if I wasn't even there. Well, she stayed in her room for the next day as well, and Ray and I thought that she was seriously considering the ramifications of everything that happened, and oh, how wrong we were. The next day, Ray tried to get her to sit with us and watch a movie, but we could tell her heart wasn't in it. Ray turned off the movie and told her to talk to him. Cece rolled her eyes and asked what there was to talk about, claiming that everything I say goes. I was confused at the turn of events, and Ray asked her what she meant. Cece blamed her, for getting rid of the baby on me, alleging that I forced her to get rid of the baby and that she had to do whatever I said. Wow, I was horrified and got to my feet to deny any charges. Ray did not look very convinced by Cece, but mostly he just looked confused as to whom to believe. Cece then starts to cry, saying that no one ever listened to her in this house and that I was a dictator who always got her way. I warned Cece that if she did not stop lying, I would tell her father that it was not her first time. Cece went white as a ghost, and Ray was confused. He asked me what I meant, and I revealed that I did not want to say anything because it was Cece's personal matter. But I had found some of her health documents by mistake, and she had gotten rid of the baby before she was 17 years of age. Ray was absolutely horrified, but Cece just claimed that I was lying as she sobbed, then rushed back to her room. Ray was not ready to accept it and called me a liar, and I asked him why would I lie about such a delicate matter. But he wouldn't listen to me and rushed to our room, locking it from behind. Now I'm sitting alone in the living room, utterly infuriated. How dare Ray not believe me after everything? I understand that he didn't want to see his daughter in a different light, but he's too soft-hearted when it comes to her. And how dare he call me a liar? However, this time I will not let Cece manipulate Ray. Update number 4. Hey, it's Jess again. Last night I decided that I would not stay silent and let Cece come between me and Ray. I decided to reveal everything to my mother-in-law Evelyn, so, she's pro-life, and it would land Cece in some heated trouble. I went to Evelyn's house the very next day, and she was home with her daughter Kelly, who was visiting for the weekend. The more, the better, I thought. I also knew Kelly to be very orthodox, and I told Evelyn and Kelly about how Cece had always been difficult. Evelyn could relate because she and Cece had never gotten along either. I shared with them how she broke us up by lying to Ray about my infidelity, and they were very compassionate towards me. Then I explained how I had found documents providing that Cece had gotten rid of a baby when she was 17 years of age, and another one just recently. Wow, but blaming the decision on me to get me in trouble with Ray? They were both angry at Cece, at me, and at Ray for allowing Cece to go through with it. Wow, I wasn't going to argue, it was just a clump of cells, right? But I needed them to just talk to Ray and persuade him to be firmer with Cece, hoping that their support would make Ray see that he was being too nice to his daughter, and potentially ruin her life because of it. They both accompanied me to my house where my husband was still giving me the cold shoulder. But then he saw his mother and sister and they scolded him for letting his daughter get away with, 2 babies. Ray tried to intervene, but they did not give him the chance. They were also horrified at how he believed his lying daughter over me after everything that happened. Ray would not meet my eyes at that. By then, Cece had come downstairs at the commotion happening in the kitchen. Evelyn turned red upon spotting her granddaughter. She told Ray that he needed to throw her out of the house. All 3 of us were horrified at her claims, and Evelyn said that she needed to learn a lesson from her mistakes and lies. I thought it was a step too far, but Kelly agreed with Evelyn. Evelyn said that if Cece could just live with her for a year, only then would she ever be allowed back in the house. She would ensure that Cece takes some classes at the community college to make something of herself, instead of always running after boys. Evelyn would observe if her behavior changes otherwise, and she would make sure that Cece's disowned by her and Ray, promptly throwing her out of the house. Cece had started to cry by this point, and I thought it was a good enough idea. If she would not listen to me and Ray would not stand firm against her, then Evelyn should be the one to put some sense into her. Ray took a deep breath and told Cece to pack her crap. She would be living with her grandmother from now on, and if she made any more mistakes, tried to lie, or engaged in inappropriate behavior, Evelyn would disown her and throw her out. I'm genuinely scared for Cece now. Update number 5. Hey guys, it's Jess. It's been 6 months since my mother-in-law took my stepdaughter Cece to live with her. There have been a few developments in the meantime, and I thought I would just update you on the latest situation. Evelyn had forced Cece to enroll in some classes at the community college. Cece reluctantly began taking them, but it was evident that she was not taking them seriously. Evelyn also compelled her to get a job, which she managed to do and maintain. Ray was relieved when she stuck with the job, and unfortunately Cece could not last in Evelyn's house for more than 2 months. Evelyn found her with a boy one day while she was supposed to be away for church. This made Evelyn mad, who promptly threw Cece out on the street. Evelyn also warned us against taking her in, especially Ray. Despite our attempts to talk Evelyn out of her decision, she insisted that these desperate situations would teach Cece the best lesson. Cece has been living at a homeless shelter and she hasn't communicated much with us, but we do know that she's still holding on to her job. She's also been attending classes more diligently. We're hopeful that she'll improve and become more independent. Well, Ray hopes that, at least then, Evelyn would consider allowing her to come back or help her get set up in a new place of her own. Evelyn said to give her time and see. Ray and I recognized that most of the issues between us were created by Cece. Ever since she left, we've been living in harmony. We haven't been fighting, tensions are low. There's no reason for us to split, even though I'm hurt that he didn't believe me. Even though he knew that his daughter had lied to him about me in the past. That's it for this update anyways. Ray and I have been living quiet and peaceful lives now, unlike Cece, who has to work twice as hard as she would have if she had only tried to do better while living with us.